And we're live. Hello. And hello once again. My name is Olive. I use she and they pronouns. I play centaurs. I play distributed consciousnesses across multiple bodied skeleton people. But today I'm doing my very first Twitch stream ever. Nathan learned that he wasn't going to have internet 2 hours ago, so we're like, okay, let's go. Let's set this thing up. So I very quickly learned how to use OBS, and here we are. Oh. Um. Interesting. Okay, try saying something now, Claire.
If I say something now, can others hear it? We have a gold star
Okay.
for Olive. I don't know if that means
I think
that people can hear me or not.
I see what the problem was. And do you want to give your intro again, Claire?
Sure. Okay, yes. Cool. Excellent. Welcome to Story Reckless. We are 2/3 of Story Reckless.
Case in point in this being my first Twitch stream.
Yes, Olive is running the stream for the first time. Bless you, Olive.
Bless me.
Yes, Nathan is internetless tonight, and so it is just me and Olive. Yeah. And then you heard what Olive said about making a map. Yeah, cool. So I think we're good. I think we're caught up.
Cool. Yeah, so today we were just gonna chat about I guess the campaign, and I was also going to make a map for the other campaign that I'm playing in a game of Lancer, which is this like big robot sci-fi edges of utopia sci-fi game. And so I just DM'd like one of my first games in it, and it was a lot of fun. And I want to keep making maps for more games elsewhere. So that's my plan for tonight.
Cool.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about Story Reckless first, or should I just like jump into map making? Do you think?
I'm happy either way. Does chat have an opinion? You
chat.
collective consciousness chat?
I guess I can probably chat while doing this.
Wait, did you just put a grid instead of a...
Yeah, so Lancer uses, or it can use, and my play group uses hexes, which is interesting. And especially since most dungeon or like map makers aren't equipped to deal with hexes.
Mm-hmm.
The solution in Dungeon Draft, which I'm using today, is there was a, like, you can put down like different patterns of things. Like usually used for like if I just want to have like a brick or something here. But I downloaded a hex grid, and so then it's just like I can drop hexes over the whole place, and then just make that an overlay up top, and then turn it off from being able to select it, and now it's just there, like a semi-transparent grid.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I was thinking of like either making an underground science lab sort of situation or like a cyberpunk streets. The thing that's like I think makes good Lancer maps interesting is by playing with line of sight, because there's so many ranged weapons and like ranged like ways to interact with people. If everybody can see everybody, then it's just kind of like a I don't know, like turn-based JRPG where you're like everybody can just like focus fire on like one person. So it's like a lot more interesting to like kind of break it up in different ways. One thought that I had, if it was like an underground sort of situation, was to have like kind of like in like Star Wars Episode 1 where there are those like big like laser red walls when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are fighting Darth Maul, and they like open and close, and then they have to like wait and be like, oh, I'm gonna pace back and forth and like growl at you, and like there's like small interludes. um do you know that scene at all, Claire?
I've never seen this movie.
Oh no. Okay, well, there's this thing that happens where it's like they can't like interact, like it's like a very fast paced like lightsaber duel, and then it's interrupted by like these weird laser walls opening and closing. And I always thought that that was like a pretty cool way to kind of like let people who are fighting have like some breather room. So yeah, I wanted to try to find some way to do that in a Lancer map, where you can like maybe see people but you couldn't like interact with them. There were just like walls in the way, or like transparent walls, and then like have the map change like over the course from like turn to turn, like different walls open up and close.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What? I guess like what? I don't really have like a point beyond that, or like an idea beyond, like that base concept. Like maybe like a command center or something, a science lab that they're like trying to escape.
What kind of science do they do? I
Good
imagine that
question.
would help figure out what exactly the building is capable of, as it were.
Okay, so I downloaded this pack called Secret Research Facility, and what kind of props do they have? They got like these weird like tank things. They got planter boxes. They got computers.
Honestly, the tank thing looks like a planet that you could get inside of.
A planet?
Yeah, like I don't know. I've been thinking and interacting with orreries recently, and I'm thinking like, you have a planet the size of, I don't know, a small room that circles around and you can like climb into it or something.
Orrery.
Orrery, yes.
Orrery. Orrery. Yeah, we could like have some kind of like cool like model solar system underneath the ground, I guess. That's good enough for me. Cool. Let's.
I wonder if you could like,
then.
Although it would be a lot easier to do that on a computer, wouldn't it? I was gonna say you could like run simulations with a model solar system. I don't know.
It'd be hard to like animate that probably.
Oh sure, yeah, but like in concept.
In concept, I don't understand.
I mean, like the idea of having a simulation that's like more physical and less digital is interesting to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So like for some reason like some organization is running simulations, but by running simulations they're like actually bumping like physical objects around.
Yeah, like maybe the net's not safe for some reason, so they're doing it mechanically.
I like that. This looks about even. So like some kind of like center observation chamber. Then object tool.
Or maybe they're just really into the hashtag aesthetic.
Couple planets of like various sizes, and I can also change the color of them. Or can I? Okay, these don't seem to be color modifiable. I'm also just learning this tool. I've only made like a couple maps for it so far.
Cool.
But let's do path tool. I think I can make like circles. Oh, that's a blood circle. I don't like that. So let's make like some kind of like rails that these can run across.
Mm-hmm.
Metal railing. Sure. So bum, bum, oh, circle. Okay, so bum, bum, bum. Okay, that's closer. Can I then edit points? Oh. Doesn't like undoing.
Is this for, well, I suppose I have a little bit more information than most of our viewers. Is this for a specific campaign that you're running, or is this just like a concept that you are articulating here?
We've been kind of like switching off who is running the games on like weeks where not everybody can make it. Instead of doing the main campaign, we switched to just like me doing a one shot or two.
Okay.
And so this would fill in probably one of those slots.
Cool.
I really like doing small episodic, like very concept or like aesthetics driven sessions. So like instead of like trying to tell like a coherent story with like tons of plot points, it's like you wake up and you're marooned on a rock in the middle of an ocean, and the ocean is red, and it has these like whales with like huge human eyes and like human teeth like breaching above the surface. And so it's like just like very strange and like surreal situations that then like the players have to like interact with and kind of like figure out not even like what's going on, but like what are the like stakes involved and like how to like get out of them, like how to make like choices when they don't have all the information. I really enjoy that kind of game.
This is weird to say. Nathan asks, is Lancer the one with the mechs?
Yeah, it's the big robot fighting game. Okay, so I am learning how to make circles here.
Can I play one of your games sometime?
Yeah, I mean, it's very combat heavy, but I would love to play Lancer with you. We could play it on stream even maybe sometime. That could be fun. It's like it's a little bit tricky to run, I think, on stream. Like when I've listened to people doing podcasts of it, I think like one of the most effective ways that I've seen combat done is they actually like don't broadcast or like they don't just like give a recording of the combat. They'll like run the combat and then go back and kind of give a play-by-play and like narrate what's happening. Because like it's a very, very tactical game. So it's just like, okay, so if you like hide behind like that rock over there, you'll have like cover. And oh wait, like what is the rule for like determining cover in like this situation? And there are like things that you can do to like make it a little bit better. Like our group has started saying, okay, like only if it's not your turn, you like the only like voice stuff that you should be able to, or like you should be talking, is like in character. And so like that also like reduces backseat driving. It reduces like rules lawyering and stuff. And we have a Discord channel like running on the side where all of that kind of like, oh, did you forget that you have like an attack of opportunity that people can like raise. And then GM and the person whose turn it is kind of like keep an eye on that, and if like anything relevant comes up there, then they can like include it. Um, yeah. Um, and like
Nathan says
yeah.
that he loves the idea of big whale creatures with human teeth. Nathan, I do not.
Oh, you can shift these whole things around at once. That's neat. That's neat. I didn't know that you could just like grab a path like that. Can I copy paste them too, so I don't have to like try to remake a circle? That would be fantastic. Let's do it. Yes, baby! Get out of here, big circle. I'm learning so much. Big circle. A circle that is big. Yeah. I have started rooting for the enemies a lot more ever since I've started GMing. Um, because it's just like, oh, like, enemies exist not to, like, I don't know, mess up people's days, but, like, they're kind of, like, interesting crosswords. Or it's like, Lancer's really good at, like, kind of presenting a puzzle for players to solve. Um, and so, like, you have a enemy that, like, links systems with, like, another enemy. And kind of like empowers it, and if you attack the enemy that it's like protecting, you get stunned for a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, okay, that means I need to like attack the like supporting one first while like surviving the like attacks of the like more dangerous one that's like being protected, or I could just like go for it and like take the hit. And like trying to like balance all of that with like locations and like line of sight and stuff is a very challenging proposition, but I think it's very fun.
Cool. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Building tool. Okay. Maybe I can make a more like even thing now that I have a circle that I can just crib from. Is this closer? No.
Now I'm thinking about villains and like how I think of villains in terms of RPG contexts.
Go on.
Oh, I'm the kind of stream of consciousness here, I guess. Villains make the world dynamic and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like if it was up to heroes, the status quo would be maintained.
Sometimes it wouldn't be. I mean, depends on what your depends on what your alignment is, and who's in charge. But like, I'm thinking about Box of Screws. She's not. Is she a villain? She very easily could be.
Yeah.
But you and I originally designed characters to play Candlekeep mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like because of her and her relationship to both of our characters, we are now playing a Baldur's Gate themed campaign.
Right. Yeah. Like every time we want to like progress the story forward, it's not like, oh, let's go back to Candlekeep. It's
let's go back to Box of Screws.
Let's go see what Box of Screws is up to. Box of Screws. Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
And part of that's because she's part of it because it's because she's mysterious, and so we want to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it also, though, is because we care about her and she cares about us. Like, not necessarily we have warm, fuzzy feelings for one another, but she is a significant force in our characters' universes.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to have influence over us. And I feel like that has made both of our characters more interesting, like playing in relation to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are bad guys like minor medium spoilers for Tomb of Annihilation, I guess. If you want to not hear those, you can mute. Then there are villains like oh heck, not Rasmussen. He's cool. Who's the other guy? The annoying guy, the Lich, the one who we're like supposed to be actually like taking down. A Sararak. There we go. Where they're less of a they're less of a person. Villains can be more kind of abstract. Like their presence is a reason for the plot and characters to move forward. I don't think we've seen any character development of a Sararak over the course of the time that we've been playing this campaign.
Uh-huh.
And I'm honestly not expecting that we will. He exists to make the story happen to a certain extent, but honestly, gosh.
Like, when do you think that that's like the appropriate type of villain to use versus...
That's a good question. Because certainly that is a less interesting villain to me.
Uh-huh. But it's like, he's not the villain in Tomb of Annihilation. It's not Tomb of a Sararak. It's the tomb is the character.
That's
like,
fair.
The tomb is the villain.
Yeah, it's the tomb that's holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
And a Sararak just kind of put the tomb there. And I know that Nathan, who is also DMing that campaign for viewer purposes, has added more characterization to a Sararak than the module calls for.
Mm-hmm.
Which has made him at least like a presence with a personality, where I just don't know if he even is in the like module as written. But yeah, when is one kind of villain better suited than the other?
I guess it's like when... What's going to be like better, I guess, like moment to moment to like motivate or like drive the story. Like, if they're going to be off screen most of the time, and like the thing that the heroes are dealing with are like the effects of them. So like one of my favorite books that I've read recently, and the kind of inspiration for propriety, is ancillary justice. And at least like in the first book especially, like there's this like, you know, big evil, not evil, it's complicated, but there's like an emperor that does this big villainous action like early on in the story, but then they like kind of just like disappear, but the like empire that they shaped is the thing that the main character like interacts with um,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. And like you can get like, I guess you can like investigate like the character of who this like emperor is, like through the kind of like world that like has shaped, that they've shaped, and that has kind of like grown up around in their presence. um but like you don't actually have to like talk with them to do that.
Right. Their personality is shown through their work, as it were.
Mm-hmm. And like the their work is part of their character, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I love showing like internal character things through, I guess, like externals.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like
you've talked about this.
like I mean, it's just we live our lives, right? Where we're marked by the world as we like pass through it. Like we get scars, like literally, like we get like tattoos. Um, like we cut our hair in like different ways. Like we just like learn to hold ourselves and like what our posture is, like what our like tones of voice are. Like we are marked by the world as we move through it, and like we mark the world. And it's really fun to find symbols of character growth, or like of like kind of like internal character state via like what the externals are. And like some things like show up more um like visibly than others, and like it doesn't like necessarily correlate to like how important it is internally. It's like, hey, how'd you get that scar? It's like, oh, I got a really bad zit and I popped it. And I have
Yeah.
a huge like crater on my face that looks badass. um but like even that, then it's like, oh, why'd you get that zit? Well, I like traveled to Colorado and it was like really dry there. Like, what were you doing in Colorado? Oh, I was like mountaineering. It's like even things that are innocuous are functions of kind of like what you're going through as a human.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a very similar scar from a zit. Actually, it wasn't a zit, it was an ingrown hair on my leg. And that was one of the reasons why I stopped shaving my legs. It was like, that was infected and painful and not worth it.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah, that was also, not a story that I just made up out of nowhere.
Sure, I figured.
Okay, why does this octagon look wrong?
uh,
Is that better? I think that might be better.
no. I think you had it right before.
Like that? No, it's definitely too tall on the bottom. I think this is better, but the stuff inside just isn't centered. So if I bring this up a little bit, maybe. Okay. Anyway, here's an orrery. That's a good start. It is kind of like a big open space in here, and I do want to like break up sight lines somehow more. I could just like add more planets, and like then it could be
Yeah.
like a big laser tag room.
Would you be able to add something like an asteroid belt that would obscure vision?
Yeah, usually things that are like kind of smaller just count as like cover, and then make attacks more difficult, but not, they don't actually like block line of sights.
Mm.
And like that's more important, especially for like people who are like hackers, who they don't care about cover. They just hack into your computer and then like run your boss off the cliff, and then your boss dies. I'm not bitter.
Oops.
Um, let's see. It could be broken in some way, and there could be like a big, like a spaceship could have crashed into it. Ironic.
A model one or a real one?
A real one. I don't know if we have like a good spaceship thing. Oh, there's also like a whole bunch of like really chaos like cranes and like big pieces of machinery.
Hmm.
Um,
Nathan says the right side is a bit wider by 1 square.
how do you know that? How can you tell such things? I don't know. Okay, wait. I have an actual grid here I can look at. Okay. That's 4 spaces, 4 spaces, 4 squares, 4 squares. So they are diagonal. 4, 4, 4. This is 7. Oh, this is like midway through right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7. So if I bump all of these down by 1. Nope, that looks bad. Did I miscount? 7 or 8? 8. I think that's right. I just need to shrink a dink.
Wheezy's Breezies, are these 12 to 15 children all in one game?
12 to 15 children. What's happening? I don't understand.
12 to 15 children in a D&D game.
12 to 15. Wait, what children? I've already forgotten. Did we talk about children?
No, this is Wheezy Breezy's comment in the chat.
Oh.
We have not talked about children so far today.
Okay, cool. I can't see the chat because I'm streaming, but I believe.
Oh, here, I will read it aloud to you. Wheezy's Breezy's, no, that's bad. Wheezy's Breezy's says, I'm also working on D&D prep as I listen, starting my first in-class game, 12 to 15 kids, airships, crew roles, writing out stat blocks for the different roles.
That's a lot.
That's so many human beings. Wheezy's Breezy's.
Oh, I have an idea for this. So I could make like a laser line or something between like certain planets. Like it's a model for like how the planets are gonna align or something. Let's see, how would we do a laser line? Do we have all the assets turned on? Yeah, we do. If I just like turn this yellow, bright yellow, accept. Oh, we're in building tool. That's why. We want path tool. Then we got our laser strips. Then we just say like, and then those are the like walls that we were talking about earlier, like from Star Wars, and so you can't shoot across the walls, or like the walls like block line of sight or something. And then I can like make a couple different versions of this map with the like planets on at like in different configurations.
What happens so I'm really excited by the fact that the outermost planet and the innermost planet are connected. What happens when the center planet moves through them in orbit?
These are good questions that we don't necessarily need to answer because the whole thing's static and I can just make interesting like single configurations.
But inquiring minds want to know how the world works, Olive.
Maybe it's all synced up such that that never happens. Like the speeds are going.
That's possible.
And it's just like in sync. Is it possible? I'm no orbital mechanicist. And like this moon definitely is going to have to pass through that one at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try just like different configurations. So like this one, what would be like an interesting setup? Okay, maybe this is a good concept for like how to break up this inner space. Um, oh, and another thing that like Lancer combats um, kind of like set it apart from D&D is that there's very explicit like win conditions
Hmm.
for every situation. They're called like sit reps, where it's like, okay, this is a mission where you need to get to this extraction point by the end of 6 turns. Like, it doesn't matter how many enemies you kill, it doesn't matter how many enemies are left on the board at the end of that. If you're able to get to that spot, then you're going to be safe. It's like you get to base. And there's like a number of different ones. There's like holdout, where you just have to like make sure that no enemies like get into your like little like last stand zone in the middle. There's escort, where you need to bring some kind of like object or item to another spot on the map. There's gauntlet, where you just like I said, you have to like run through all those like enemies to get to like an endpoint. But like the thing that I like about them is that they're all very like map and like location focused, more so
Mm-hmm.
than like kill all the enemies, because like again that just kind of becomes a JRPG where you're like, okay, their hit points are going down, anything that makes their hit points go down is better, and like I can just like optimize for that.
Right.
Whereas you can find like a lot more creative situations when you need to like configure the map, or like you have like a an objective that isn't necessarily about violence as the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're making this map, we should think about, okay, which kind of map is this going to be? And if we want this centerpiece to be kind of like the centerpiece and have like people like moving through and interacting with this, we should have something that will be interesting with changing like lines of sight and access turn by
Mm-hmm.
turn. Um, which could mean I always need to like go and remind myself like what the different sit reps are, and I don't have my book right next to me. Um, I guess I could just like pull open the PDF. Let's do that. Pulling open paid PDF content on screen. It's probably fine. Think of it as a
We probably will not get scolded for
yeah.
this. We are small enough that we can probably get away with it.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So here they are, and like all of them come with like a very general like, here's like how you would lay out a map. This one is control, where like you need to have players on these control points and try to like knock enemies off the control points. Got escort, where you're trying to get something from point A to point B through a bunch of enemies. Extraction, where you're trying to just like get to the end goal. And then gauntlet. I don't actually know what the difference between gauntlet and extraction are. Gauntlet is you get to an objective zone, and then you have to get back. Or players inside the CZ. Oh, okay. So you have to like get to this point and then actually hold that point to the end of the eighth round. And also like games of Lancer tend to be like pretty not short in like temporal time. It's like you can spend 4 hours getting through 4 turns, which is why like kind of like efficiencies of play are really important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that could work. Holdout, like I said, you're just like hanging out. It's desperate last stand sort of situation. And then recon is there's a couple of different like control points, and you need to like go to them and then spend like a full turn saying, is this the real one? And like you're looking for like some kind of like critical intel or something, and being like, okay, is it in this computer? Is it under this rock? Um, let's see. Control could be actually kind of interesting if the objective Oh, what if the zones that you were trying to control moved from round to round? So like we could just like make expand this world out bigger, or like this big like zone to like an entire like solar system. So just like add a whole bunch more rings, and then
Uh-huh.
like different planets and like their control zones will like rotate like clockwork around. So it's not like you go to an objective and then you just like hang out there. Um,
You have to follow it around or
you
like
have to
set up
follow it
something to
around.
protect it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's cool. I like that idea.
Let's do that then. That's
Okay.
great. Okay. So we need to make this room probably bigger.
Nathan asks, do you think Primrose and Propriety would like Box of Screws? How do they feel about the guild?
Primrose and propriety. Like
Gosh.
I
I
don't
feel like
know.
Primrose would think Box of Screws was a bit of a stick in the mud. She's not. What she wants is too limited. It's too unimaginative. She wants money and control. That's boring.
I think propriety would be very at home in taking orders from Box of Screws. Having somebody be like, here's the situation. Here's your place in the world. I need you to like do these things, like run a front of a bookshop or whatever, and like entertain my clients. And that's your life. You get to do this for all eternity.
I can see how that would appeal to Propriety.
Mm-hmm.
And how does Rose think or feel about the guild? It exists. It has its uses. It probably hurts some people, but that's like,
What doesn't?
yeah. So long as it doesn't hurt me or mine, I suppose. Nathan says, run a tea shop, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh. That one got fucked up.
We still haven't ever been to the tea shop that Box of Screws at least has some influence over.
Uh-huh. I don't think good things happen at the tea shop.
I don't think so either, probably. I hope she's at least somewhat responsible about how she does that. How do they feel about Baldur's Gate? It's a really human city.
Yeah, there'd just be too many people. Like, I think Propriety likes her little corners and like little hidey holes from the world.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what Propriety thinks about cities in general. I don't think not propriety. I don't think Primrose is terribly used to physical violence. I feel like this is the most the most violence that she's encountered in a while of like what we're doing right now.
Uh-huh.
Most of it has been like interpersonal conflict and magic and like psychological intimidation and manipulation. And I think the violence, like the physical violence of Baldur's Gate, would like just be a turnoff. Not even necessarily intimidate her, just be like, this is gross, why are we bothering?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think her main reaction is, eh.
Finally, we've made characters that like want to hang out in Candlekeep instead of just go to Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I mean, I could honestly see Primrose and Propriety be more likely to go through the rest of Candlekeep Mysteries
Yeah.
than Kidam and Lovelace, who
Yeah.
kind of like at this point have their own things going on.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't really think through. I mean, we didn't have really much information to start with, but I didn't really think through like what would be involved to solve a mystery in Dungeons and Dragons when making Kidam, at least. I made a character I wanted to play, which is absolutely something you should do, but also like neither of us are proficient in investigation or terribly good at stealth. I can talk to people. That's good.
Lovelace is proficient in stealth. She's fine.
Note that I said particularly good at.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Kadam's terrible at it. You're decent.
Hey, we're better than that guild rogue.
We are.
Katolm.
Yes. Katolm.
Useless. Useless.
Lovelace did send a particular individual to the tea shop in Baldur's Gate, which I'm currently forgetting the name of. And Kidam did note that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been very low priority. And like, what are the chances of Kidam going to check there and finding him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, there you are. I was given the bag that was stolen from you. I also don't know that Kidam necessarily like disapproves of drugs on principle.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I am not remembering the name of that tea shop. Bugging me now.
It's like Golden Leaf or something.
It's a name, I think, like a person's name. Choplin's.
Choplin's. I don't know where I got Golden Leaf. Totally off.
It's like around the corner and down the block from the Cracked Spine. Yeah, Wheezy's Breezy's. I agree. Wheezy's Breezy says, I was going to ask, for a campaign that takes place in a keep of books, Lovelace and Kidam definitely didn't seem like a good fit. Fun characters just need to be in a different setting. Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I feel like we also didn't like quite have a handle on like what the campaign was gonna be like when we started.
Hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, Candlekeep. And my experience with Candlekeep has been through like the Baldur's Gate games, like the original ones, where it's like
Hmm.
you spend a little bit of time in Candlekeep, and like sometimes you can go into like the dungeons, and there's like weird doppelgangers and stuff. But it's like you're not hanging out there and like solving mysteries. Like you kind of like pass by and like pick up like a side character at the beginning and then
Uh-huh.
leave and never come back. It's like in the whole what's it, hero's journey, it's like the home place and then like you leave out for the unknown from that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think we actually created both of our characters before the book was actually published, I
Mhm.
believe.
That sounds right to me.
And I remember hearing that the that all of the adventures were mysteries, but that not all of them took place in Candlekeep,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why I went for someone from a place nearby rather than from Candlekeep itself. Nathan asks, would Kadam and Lovelace get along with Primrose and Propriety?
Would we? Okay, like give me a more specific one. It's like Primrose and Propriety, or Primrose and like Kidam, or Propriety and like Lovelace.
I mean, all of them. All of them. I think Kadam would be made uncomfortable by Propriety once they understood how they worked. First confused and then uncomfortable. Um, there's oh gosh. Hmm. I think partly because Kidam would have a lot of trouble reading Propriety. Like they would have they would so much of how they relate to people comes from reading body language and facial expressions and being hyper aware of emotional states and reading individuals and the room at large. And I feel like they just wouldn't be able to do that with Propriety, and that would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Propriety would be difficult for Kadam.
How would Lovelace interact with Primrose? Probably think that you're just like some. Oh, I don't know. You talk like a highborn, like high class person. You're like very refined, but I don't know. You're dressed like a hippie. Is that
Yeah.
true? It's just like okay, like you've touched a tree before. I can respect that.
That's very true. I have touched many trees in my life.
Uh huh. Why are you hanging out here? I think
Because
so
it's so much more
curious.
interesting. Yeah.
Um, Probably better than Propriety and Kidam.
Probably. I think that Primrose would be very interested by Lovelace.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I think so. on the surface level, because centaurs are fae and Furbolg have fae connections.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Lovelace is rude,
Yeah.
which Primrose would find utterly delightful.
Remember Velma? I
Uh-huh.
I told Velma that I didn't like Velma.
Yeah.
It's one of my proudest moments.
That would have made Primrose laugh aloud.
Yes. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is like I'm thinking of some kind of like observation deck that can like look out over all of this stuff. And so I need to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to like do or like imply elevation changes. So we got like kind of stairs going up each edge. Um, then I guess like a wall or something. No, we don't want a wall because like that would block line of sight. Um, some kind of
A railing,
yeah, that makes
so
sense.
you don't fall over the edge accidentally.
Yeah, okay. Path tool. I think I saw a fence at one point. Metal railing. Oh, well, that's double metal railing. We don't want that. We want. Unfortunately, I've also used this metal railing as like the tracks for.
Hmm.
I wonder if you can change the type of path after the fact. So, like, can I click on this and then say, right click on it? Guess not. Okay, that's fine. This tool's like really cool, but then also there's stuff like that where it's like there's no technical reason why you shouldn't be able to change like what type of path something is.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay, I want to change the type of floor here. How do I change that floor again?
What would propriety think of Kidam?
What would propriety think of Kidam? I don't know. Kidam's like quiet. Kidam can hang out in the tea shop. Oh boy. Not gonna cause a problem. So like, I think propriety has like seen a lot of different people, and can like very quickly kind of like form opinions or jump to conclusions. It's like, is this person a threat? Is this person not a threat? Is like, which of my hands should like go over there? Like the one who's like currently like prepared to deal with um, like a rowdy customer, or
Yeah, are you
not.
sending Arrow or Grace over there?
Yeah. And like, which one is like larger physically? So it's like, what's the like? Do I need to like send like a bouncer basically somewhere? Um, and Kidam would just be like, okay, this is like some quiet kid. Let's like give them a tea that like lets them catch their breath and not get overwhelmed, and then like slowly tease information out of them would be their like expectation that they jump to.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just yes. Kidam would be a little bit amused by that evaluation, also a little intimidated.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very used to being the most observant person in the room, but they're also relatively trusting. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Adam would enjoy Primrose in small doses. She's a little much uh, energetically
Mm-hmm.
for long-term exposure, but totally could hang out for a little bit. Would not like have any objections to her as a person. Um, I don't think they would be close at any point, though. Katam's really picky about people. Like they can get along with nearly anyone, but be close to limited amount of people.
Lovelace is special.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. We're friends. I like it when we just have like a quiet moment when our like houses have been ransacked or whatever, and we just get to like lie on each other. That's nice. That's
It
sweet.
is nice.
I'm glad for them.
Lovelace is one of the very few people who Kadam will lie upon.
Why can't I select these? What's happening? Pattern shape tool. User layer 1. I want to just select those. Nope. Nope, not the hexes. I'm just going to delete the hexes. I don't need the hexes right now. And I think the hexes might have been getting in the way of these things. Okay, cool beans. Okay, so if this is our table situation, let's give a little bit more space for a gangplank to get up here. Yes?
Oh, I'm a little bit stuffy. That was not
Okay.
a comment in any way.
I was going to say, do you have opinions you'd like to share with the class?
Not particularly, actually.
Please don't share what you have brought to class. Do you have enough for everybody? I hope not. Okay, I think I need to just stop snapping things to grid here.
Great question from Wheezy's Breezy's Olive. Does propriety experience romantic love?
I mean, I'm just stealing from ancillary justice. They would say no, but then they might just get like super attached to somebody and not be able to put words to it. It's just like, why are you hanging out around me all the time and like devoting yourself to my service? I'm not. I like you. What's your feelings? I just want to hear what you have to say about it. And propriety would be like, I don't even know. It's just like, I've decided that you're my ward. Like, would try to like propriety's like very lawful, and so like there would have to be a cultural structure for her to like understand what was going on.
Is there? Do you feel like there is insufficient structure for them to be able to express that currently?
I think it depends on like who it was with, and like she'd understand it in the context of like whatever specific situation. It's like if it was with like, I don't know, God, I hate it that my first thought was like Velma. But just be
As
like,
an example.
but like, and that would just be like, oh, like I desire to I don't know, keep safe, and you are the superior officer in that sense, and so I will spend a lot of time around you in order to like better anticipate your needs, like something like weird like that, and just like very like smoothly like slide into Velma's DMs, kind of.
Interesting.
If that makes any sense.
That does. Oof.
Yes.
I recognize that because propriety is like literally a created creature
Mm-hmm.
and does not have the same experiences of the world or needs that like what we consider most people
Mm-hmm.
need and experience. It might be okay for that to be their way of operating romantically, but my gosh, does that make my alarm bells go off?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can't live your life in service to another being. Like, it just doesn't work long term. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gotta have. You need to be living for yourself primarily, or else you become about another person. And because you cannot control anyone but yourself, you cannot. You are then like,
In for a bad time.
yeah, you are offsetting your self onto another person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are both extremely vulnerable to them like having to interpret you and your needs and desires, which you probably aren't expressing to them
Mm-hmm.
clearly anymore because they're part of you
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really unfair to the other person because you can't ever read anyone else's mind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It worked, like that setup in Ancillary Justice worked for me because it was so very clear that the main character isn't a person in the way
Mm-hmm.
that we understand personhood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's really hard for me to not see anything as a person.
I think it was helped like in Ancillary Justice because like you were seeing things from that character's like point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and we aren't in Propriety's
yeah.
heads.
Heads, hands, hearts.
And Wheezy's Breezes, you are correct. Propriety does experience romantic love. It's never been particularly important or interesting. Um, but yeah, like she's capable of that.
Wait, propriety?
Primrose.
Primrose.
Yeah. And Nathan asks, is there somewhere in Baldur's Gate they would like to see more of? Claire wants to go back to the magic shop. We'll see if we can persuade Kidam to go back in. um,
I think like so in world building we came up with this like cool bathhouse like sort of situation on the other side of town. Um, that was like run by like the Streetwalkers crew or guild or something, and they seemed like a rad bunch of folks. Like Um,
I have no memory of this. Tell me about this.
I think this might have just been in like conversations with like Nathan and I.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just like this, like I forget who she is exactly, but like she's able to like balance, um, and like kind of like survive as an independent crew and like as like a super neutral ground throughout the city because she like knows everybody's secrets because um like people go to the bathhouse to like socialize and like talk in private and like there's like a water golem rumored to be there or like sentient like creatures and like she's able to just like navigate the politics of the city really deftly and she just seemed super cool and I liked her or at least
Cool.
my understanding of her at that point. um,
I mean, that sounds awesome. So this is separate from the like generalized entertainers crew.
I think so. Nathan, do you remember any of that?
Pulling up my information here.
Let's see. Can I add lighting effects or something? I watched a YouTube video of somebody making raised platforms and they did this cool stuff with like shadows along paths, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't actually have those assets, I don't think. So I can't do that until I go download them. I guess I could just like spend right now and just go do that. Let's do that. Okay. Dungeon draft. Shadow path.
I could have sworn the bathhouse is on the west side of the city, I believe. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember the name of the other sex workers guild, but it's not. They're not exclusively sex workers.
Shadow pack accept. Okay. Apparently we need to save and reopen. Let's close this, then reopen dungeon draft.
Mm. Well, that's cool. I totally would be down to go to a bathhouse.
It'd be interesting to see Lovelace in a bathhouse. Like, I
Yeah.
guess you just crawl in, all four hooves. Just get in there.
Yeah. I mean, you've been in a hot tub before on screen, haven't you?
Have I?
Yeah, at the baths at Candlekeep, where we hung out with
Oh
Valor.
right. Oh right. Oh no. Right. Right. Cool. 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 Medium. Wow, these shadows actually work really well. Wow, it's
The
incredible.
Water Queen's house.
Water Queen? Maybe.
That's a guess as to the name of the bathhouse. Distant Shores. I'm just naming potential things here on the west side of the city. Well,
Anyway, Nathan, yes, let's go there.
sounds good. I do imagine that a lot of Kadam's clients are sex workers because they consistently need birth control and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I would understand if Kadam like knew them. The hissing stones. Okay, that also makes
Hissing
sense.
stones. That's right.
Oh wow, that's like as far away from the outer city as you can get.
Yep.
It's a hike. Are there uh across harbor ferries
Oh, that would be fun.
just to save some time?
What would that look like if you had to make some up right now? You can be the author of this world that we inhabit.
Some ferries.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you probably just I don't know, like hourly or something. You can get on a small boat just built for passengers and go from one dock in Brampton or Eastway to another dock in Bloomridge or Sea Tower. I mean,
But like, who
would that?
runs the ferries?
Oh, I don't know how much world building I want to do without Nathan's approval. The Revelers Crew. Thank you, Nathan. That is the one I was looking for. They do operate out of there frequently. Okay. But the Revelers Union isn't like Maryland is not part of the Revelers Union. This is great. I'm delighted by this. I suppose Nathan is right here.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, these shadows do a lot to like imply depth here. I'm
Yeah, they
sure.
do.
I'm sure I could do better here, but that's okay for now.
I want to go home. I want to go back to Baldur's Gate.
Well, that's what we're doing. We
Yeah,
got one more session with Primrose and Propriety, probably. Is that right?
probably, yeah.
Okay, let's make a generator sort of room next. Do. Ugh, gross.
Thanks, Nathan. He says, I love hearing your ideas for world building. It makes my life easier and you'll have great ideas.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's just make things up, and then it becomes canon. Nathan's not on
Okay.
stream; he can't say no.
Well, he can, but
Hmm.
um so the dock it's not the dock. The harbor itself is probably pretty calm waters.
Mm-hmm.
Um I wonder there are probably like different classes of transportation. Like you might be able to get a ride across on a pull boat for 5 copper. And everyone just kind of crowds together in the center, and it's a flat bottomed boat with no seating kind of thing, and someone's just pulling you across. I wonder if that's something that the porter's crew does to make money, or porters, just the porters in general. I don't think the porters have a crew. My impression is the porters are decently valuable, like to Baldur's Gate as a whole, such that I'm not sure that they need a crew? Question mark. The harbor is patrolled by the Flaming Fist. Okay, so like maybe as a goodwill gesture, the Flaming Fist will take some folks across, like tourists, for a nominal fee. Guided tours of Baldur's Gate Harbor by the Flaming Fist.
I mean, they would love that, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what better way to, like, I don't know, maintain control than, like, control the message and, like, the things that, like, visitors see?
Yeah, yeah.
So, of course, the cops want to, like, run the tourism industry. Okay, so we got some weird generators up on that side.
And I'm sure that the very rich have their own personal boats. But then there are like middle class transportation where you can get across with, a pleasant, bench. Like the duck tours in Boston. Are there duck tours in Boston run by the police?
Excuse me? I would like some more context, please.
Well, we might get it. We'll find out.
Wow, it's so nice to be able to.
Yeah. The Flaming Fist tour of the harbor ending at the sea tower of Balduran, and you get like the history of the city there, and you can look out across the harbor and across the river. Oh yeah. I don't imagine there are terribly many tourists in Baldur's Gate. My impression is it's mostly trade, though. And Worm's Crossing is built high enough off the river that pretty much any ship can go underneath, I assume. I know they close the gates at Worm's Rock at nightfall, but people live on the bridge itself. Regarding duck tours in Boston, lol, no, but they go around on old military amphibious landing boats that have big duck heads on them. Oh my gosh.
Don't know what I was expecting. Was not that. No, I did
Nope.
know what I was expecting, and it wasn't that. Oh, that's very funny. All right, weird generator place. What's another thing that would be next to an orrery? Got generators. We got like an observatory.
Mm-hmm. Probably offices.
Okay, yeah. I feel like the offices would be connected to this observe, like if it just like
Yeah, I
went back
agree.
further.
Like, yeah, could they be lining? Like, could you have? Oh, I can't gesture or indicate anything. Um, could you have the offices looking out onto the observatory deck? Like, have there be windows on three of those sides there?
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, let's go. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And how do we
Oh,
connect these?
bathrooms! Yes, everyone needs to go to the bathroom. Thank you, Nathan.
This is revenge for us asking for you to make bathrooms in Deese's place, isn't it? Um,
Nathan and I have definitely talked about the lack of bathrooms in RPG dungeons.
mm-hmm.
Whoops. Um, the
Okay.
very first dungeon that I ever designed, I put bathrooms into because that's like people need to go to the bathroom. And then I
Okay.
found out that very few do.
Very few people need to go to the bathroom.
Yes, very few people need to go to the bathroom. Very few dungeons have bathrooms. And like if you're doing a dragon slayer, like sure, yeah, I could see not putting in bathrooms, but like, mines. People need to go to the bathroom in mines. You got to have an outhouse or something.
Cool. Okay, so let's have two offices that kind of like look into the place that looks out here. And then I guess just like little doorways there and there to get into those. And then the bathroom can be like down the hall to the left. I'm running out of map space here, but like I could make a, I don't know, bathroom. Let's see. Okay. Let's see what bathroom objects that we have in these things that I have.
Another
These
good
assets
question.
and hats. Okay. Urinal? Yeah, urinals. Baby, we're in business. Okay. I'm just gonna place a couple down to remind myself that we have them. Then, sink. Okay, we got some sinks. It's kind of looks a lot like the urinal there.
I was going to say the urinal could be a urinal or a toilet or a sink or all three.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we might have to like construct our sinks. So we got a sink. What do we got in terms of tables here? We got stone tables. Okay, we can make this work. Might have to make the walls a little bit bigger, or these a little smaller. Sink. I'll just make new sinks. Oh, we're also at 9 o'clock.
Oh, wow, we are at time. Well,
I want to make this sink real fast.
okay.
Okay. That's sink there. That's at least one. Maybe I can just downsize this bathroom. It can be like a one-person bathroom instead of like an office bathroom. Snap.
This is a very Roman and or medieval bathroom currently.
What do you mean by that?
You get to go with a whole bunch of other people around you.
Oh, yeah. Poop with friends. Urinal. It's like, I feel like it should be on the opposite side of the room, right?
Yeah. There you go.
Hand dryer. Do we have a dryer? Oh, man, all of these are like kind of blobs. But
Yeah.
sure. That could be a hand dryer. Next to the door, I guess.
Yeah, to the left of the door there.
Like that.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think we can also just throw down a wall real quick.
Major question.
Uh-huh.
Is there toilet paper?
Let's find out together, shall we?
Sounds good.
Toilet. Yeah, there is, baby! Oh,
nice.
So good. I don't know which asset pack this came from, but yeah. Somebody knows what's up.
Oh, yeah.
Also, there's just like straight up toilets here. Let's do that instead of this urinal. That looks like a drinking fountain. Toilet. See, open or closed, friends?
I have a preference for closed personally, but
there we go. And let's give it like a different type of floor. I swear we can almost be done. We're almost done. We're so close.
we're almost done with the bathroom, which is the most important place.
What color happens when we do these? That's kind of bathroomy. It's kind of dark. Oh god. It's so garish. That's fine. I can darken it later. That, and then this tool has a cool thing where you can just put down portals, aka doors, or windows. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, this took like hour and a half, 2 hours. How long are our play sessions? I don't even know. But
yeah, hour and a half.
I feel like I learned a lot. I finally downloaded a shadow pack, which was fun.
This is cool.
Yeah, I like this map editor a lot. I feel like I still need to learn how to use it. It's called Dungeon Draft.
Dungeon Draft.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also like cool things that you can do with like lighting. You can just be like, I want like a cool like hexagon thing range. So like this whole place is just like lit up. Everybody loves hexes. It's like magical. It's like spotlights. Yeah. Anyway, let's call that done. Okay, so once again, we are Story Reckless. You probably all know that by now. We stream every Monday at 7 PST.
7:30 PST.
7:30 PST. I know. 7 is when we show up to like do all the pre-show stuff.
We are going to stream this Wednesday at 7:30 to continue with our normal storyline. Yes, so join us here at 7:30 in 48 hours. 46 hours. Yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.